So it's a very spooktacular episode of the What Happened to Music podcast. We're
Bringing you some Halloween-themed episodes for the month of October. Ooh.
I like how we got dressed up. Probably would have been a smart idea.
Yeah, dressed up as somebody who thinks that he knows more than he actually does.
All right, so we're going to be talking about our top 5 favorites. We're going for top 5 favorite. Is that
Sure, top 5 favorite horror movie
soundtracks.
Yeah.
And so why don't you go with your list?
Okay, so for my list, going from 5 to 1, like the least to like the most.
And we should point out we haven't compared these yet. So
Right. My number 5 was the Unsolved Mysteries theme.
Okay.
Which I didn't really find that memorable, but it did have qualities about it that are creepy. A lot of the songs that I find to be like the top creepy themes.
Wait. You mean the TV show?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know what you were talking about.
Yeah. So like, you know,
Yeah, the guy in the beginning would be like, this person disappeared, and no, you know.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
that show. Yeah,
so you know, you got
we'll
the
put a picture of that
the
guy.
really stereotypical, like the long tones,
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
ostinato patterns, like the really just like, oh, there's a random sound there. Oh no. So that's why it's at the bottom of the list, but I still do find it unsettling taking it out of context. How about one of yours?
Well, why don't you go through your 5? Because I think mine has at least a
number
thought.
4. I took the Halloween theme.
Yeah, that's
the Mike Myers movie, not the comedian.
Yeah, that's no, that's on my list. It's probably the most memorable of all the themes.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the one thing where, you'll have the most children say, "Can you play the Halloween theme?"
Yeah,
and I can't think of another theme. Which kids will be? Can you play the? No one says, "Can you play the Friday the 13th theme?" I don't know what that is.
And very interesting. I remember from like my marching band days, like, oh, that school's quoting the Halloween theme, or like, oh no, that band's playing the Halloween theme over there, and like I've never even seen the movie, honestly, and I just
You ever seen any of them?
Nope. Here's a fun tidbit. I'm not a horror movie fan, so
now a fan or just not something
or
you
a
typically
viewer,
watch.
Really. So really, when I made my list, it was taken out of context. So like, does this make me feel unsettled?
So
like I read up on the synopsis.
You literally had to go look up and then listen to the music.
Even multiple times for some of them.
So you're taking these completely out of context. So I mean which is I'm probably a bigger, I wouldn't consider myself an ultra fan, but probably a bigger horror movie fan where I've at least seen all the movies.
Nope, I don't do that.
Okay.
I don't do that. But,
so anyway, continue.
Number 3, Children of the Corn.
Okay.
Yeah, it's weird. My top 3 are kind of like older 60s era type horror movies, which I guess one could argue were a lot creepier from what I hear.
Yeah, I don't have anything before, I want to say 1980 or 81. I think The Shining was 80 or 81.
Yeah, okay.
Except for one other thing, and I only put that on there for
spoilers.
Some diversity.
That's on your list.
Yeah.
Number 2 for me was Nightmare on Elm Street.
And
then number 1 was Rosemary's Baby.
See, unfortunately, with Nightmare on Elm Street, I can't. When I think of soundtracks, I always think of like Dokken and Dream Warriors, and like the very 80s. Like, oh, we're gonna be Dokken. I would sing the Dream Warriors song, but I don't have the range of Mr. Don Dokken.
Another topic I'm unfamiliar with.
Yes,
but I noticed though, because I'm taking all mine out of context, like all the ones that I found to be creepy, like again had very sustained tones. A lot of them had some kind of ostinato pattern, usually dissonant in its pattern. And there's usually like a build up to a moment, like it starts off very laid back and then it kind of builds up, and you know, like the harsh sounds come in more and more, and then it's like So that's,
and then of course the art of being able to put that into context of the movie.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, a hand comes out of a grave, and
yeah, I mean, like music that makes me picture something like that happening. Yeah, so how about your list, since you are a horror movie viewer?
Okay, so I was talking about how I have really nothing. The Shining would be the second newest on here. But number 5, I have the most recent on my list would be Strangeland from
Never even
1998.
heard of that.
No, you probably haven't. That's all me being in like 8th or ninth grade when that came out. It was a Dee Schneider film of Twisted Sister fame.
Okay.
Actually, I remember it being pretty good. I probably would watch it now and think it was pretty terrible. But it was probably the only horror movie soundtrack I ever owned because it had all the metal bands of my youth that I enjoyed.
That kind of makes sense, considering.
And I remember, and that would have been System of a Down had a song called Marmalade on that soundtrack, which I think was exclusive to that soundtrack. And that was before like that album with where it was like, oh look, it's a hand album, like the first self-titled album, and then of course the Toxicity, which was like the one that kind of blew up. So that was just interesting to me. So I put that on the list. Interestingly enough, I pretty much hate horror movie soundtracks that have metal songs in them because it immediately, like if I hear drowning pools, let the bodies hit the floor, I don't want to see that movie because it totally takes me out of the mood.
So you're not really into like the more modern take on a
No, I think
movie.
it's there's nothing about like a metal soundtrack that's gonna make a movie scarier. Although this
But it's so gory and violent when it has metal.
see, that's the thing. I don't necessarily. I'm not like, oh no, I'm scared because I'm listening to, Sepultura. Oh
Rocker
no,
that you were with your long hair and your rebel ways.
Yeah. So number 4, I have The Shining, which is not technically a horror movie. I guess you would put that in suspense. But
You
yeah,
got
that
a
was
very memeable face in there. Like, here's Johnny.
here's Johnny. Yeah. Have you ever seen The Shining?
I think I have actually.
People either. I mean, I really like the movie. Do yourself a favor and watch at least that one. But yeah, I mean that's all. That's an unoriginal, and by that I mean they didn't have a composer for most of that. That's mostly Bartok
Which is really interesting that they chose to do
and
that.
Penderecki. Yeah, Stanley Kubrick. But yeah, that's even from the beginning of that beginning opening shot where it's one of these things where you go, you know what, this is a beautiful area, but I feel unsettled right from the get go. Then I have the Psycho soundtrack, which I mean that's just all about building suspense with Bernard Herrmann. I also have Halloween with John Carpenter because that's number 2 because that's probably the most memorable theme. I guess you can argue that Psycho, I guess, is a memorable theme, which people seem to hear Threnody for Hiroshima and then assume that's a Psycho soundtrack.
Well, I mean, it's the same. It's the same kind of vibe. Yeah.
And then number 1, without a doubt, I have zero issues with putting this as my top, but the Omen soundtrack.
Oh, okay.
I mean, without a doubt, if there's one soundtrack that completely gets me into the mood of, the devil is around, it's that soundtrack. I guess Jerry Goldsmith won Best Original Score that year for it. And it's something about taking, obviously there's this very, Catholic, Catholicism theme and kind of twisting it to be this like black mass. And there's something you feel like, and obviously I was a kid when I was watching The Omen 20 years after it came out. There's something as a kid you're watching it just going like, I don't feel like I should be watching this movie simply because of the music. I mean, it's I think the darkest music in any horror movie.
And I think obviously anybody who's watching us would understand really the impact that music has on a film in order to create the suspense and the feeling, especially with horror films where those feelings are essential for it to be a good horror movie.
So, yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of things that we didn't put on at least on our list. I mean, The Exorcist, and some other things. I
didn't really think that one was great.
The theme is memorable, but I don't like the synth kind of.
It didn't stick out to me though as being scary or unsettling or anything.
But
it just kind of sounded like a movie.
I can see that. But either way, put your comment below.